Imagine waking up one day and realizing that most of your stress, frustration, and emotional exhaustion never actually came from the world itself, but from the way you reacted to it. Imagine discovering that every argument you entered, every insult you defended against, every explanation you offered to someone who never intended to understand, slowly drained your power without you even noticing. Now imagine the opposite. Imagine learning that true influence often comes not from speaking louder, proving yourself harder, or reacting faster, but from knowing exactly when not to respond at all. That realization changes everything. Most people spend their lives believing that strength means responding to every challenge. If someone questions them, they feel the need to explain. If someone criticizes them, they rush to defend themselves. If someone provokes them, they feel obligated to fight back. It feels natural. It feels justified. But in many cases, it's actually the fastest way to give away your power. The truth is that attention is one of the most valuable resources you possess. Every time you give it away, especially to negativity, you are investing time, emotional energy, and focus that you will never get back. People who understand this principle treat their attention the same way successful investors treat their money. They don't spend it everywhere. They spend it intentionally. Think about the individuals in history who held significant influence. Many of them were not the loudest voices in the room. They did not constantly explain themselves or react to every critic. Instead, they were selective. Their words were measured. Their responses were rare. And because they were rare, they carried weight. This is where silence becomes powerful. Silence is often misunderstood. Many people assume silence means weakness, surrender, or avoidance. But silence can also be strategy. When someone attempts to provoke you and you respond emotionally, you immediately enter their frame of control. The conversation becomes about defending yourself instead of protecting your peace. But when you refuse to react, something interesting happens. The dynamic shifts. Instead of you trying to prove something, the other person is left wondering why their attempt failed. Silence introduces uncertainty, and uncertainty forces people to confront their own assumptions. This doesn't mean you should never speak or express yourself. Communication is important. Boundaries are important. But the key difference lies in intention. Powerful people speak when it matters. They do not speak simply because someone demanded a reaction. Another principle that transforms how people perceive you is strategic withdrawal. This idea is often misunderstood as isolation, but they are very different things. Isolation means disconnecting completely from the world. Strategic withdrawal means choosing when and where your presence appears. When someone is constantly available, constantly responding, and constantly giving their time, people quickly begin to take that presence for granted. But when someone becomes selective, when their time is limited and their attention intentional, their presence gains value. Consider how anticipation works in everyday life. When something is always available, people rarely appreciate it. But when access becomes limited, curiosity increases. People start paying attention. Strategic withdrawal operates on that same psychological principle. You remain engaged with the world, but you are no longer accessible to everything and everyone. You show up with purpose instead of obligation. Another powerful shift happens when you learn the effect of indifference. Indifference is not about being cold or uncaring. It is about refusing to let every external situation control your internal state. Many people live as emotional hostages to the opinions of others. A single negative comment can ruin their entire day. A misunderstanding can consume hours of explanation. A criticism can trigger endless attempts to prove themselves. When your emotions are constantly reacting to outside voices, you give those voices influence over your peace of mind. But when you develop emotional stability, something changes. Insults lose their sting. Criticism becomes information instead of an attack. Rumors lose their power because you are no longer racing to fight every narrative. This kind of emotional control creates a reputation that is difficult to shake. People begin to notice that you cannot easily be provoked. They realize that attempts to manipulate your reactions simply do not work. And when manipulation stops working, respect often replaces it. Another lesson that transforms personal power is learning to recognize the difference between valuable relationships and draining ones. Every person in your life influences your mental environment. Some encourage growth, creativity, and support. Others thrive on negativity, conflict, and constant drama. The challenge is that draining relationships are not always obvious. Sometimes they appear as constant complaints, endless criticism, or repeated emotional crises that never seem to resolve. Over time, these patterns quietly drain your attention and focus. Protecting your energy does not require hostility. It simply requires awareness. When you recognize that certain interactions consistently leave you exhausted instead of empowered, creating distance becomes an act of self-respect rather than rejection. The people who belong in your life will understand boundaries. In fact, they will respect them. Perhaps the most underrated principle of all is the power of calculated inaction. In a world that constantly celebrates action, movement, and immediate responses, the idea of doing nothing can feel counterintuitive. But not every situation requires intervention. Sometimes conflicts dissolve on their own when they are not fueled by attention. Sometimes rumors collapse when they encounter consistent reality. Sometimes competition disappears when you refuse to participate in the race. Calculated inaction does not mean laziness. It means recognizing which battles are worth your time and which ones are distractions. When you stop reacting to every challenge, you gain something extremely valuable: focus. Instead of scattering your energy across arguments, drama, and endless explanations, you direct it toward progress. Over time, that progress becomes visible. Results speak louder than reactions. Consistency speaks louder than defense. And eventually, something interesting happens. The people who once expected immediate reactions from you begin to adjust their behavior. Some lose interest when they realize they cannot provoke you. Others develop respect when they see that your actions remain steady regardless of outside noise. The most powerful transformation, however, happens internally. When you stop giving away your attention freely, you discover how much clarity you gain. Decisions become calmer. Emotions become more balanced. The constant need to prove yourself fades. Instead of reacting to the world, you begin shaping your own path through it. This shift does not happen overnight. It requires awareness and practice. There will still be moments when criticism stings or when the urge to respond feels overwhelming. But each time you pause and choose intention over impulse, you strengthen your control over your own narrative. And that control is the foundation of true personal power. When people observe someone who does not chase validation, who does not react to every challenge, and who remains focused on their purpose, they begin to see something rare. They see discipline. They see confidence. They see someone who cannot easily be pulled into unnecessary battles. In many ways, that quiet stability becomes more influential than any argument ever could. But there is one final idea worth considering. Silence, restraint, and selective action are powerful tools, but tools are only valuable when used wisely. The goal is not to distance yourself from the world or treat others with indifference. The goal is to create enough inner stability that your actions come from intention rather than reaction. Because when you master that balance, something remarkable happens. People stop seeing you as someone who can be easily influenced. They start seeing you as someone who chooses their path carefully, someone who does not waste energy proving their worth. And once that reputation forms, it tends to follow you everywhere. But here's the question most people never ask. If silence, patience, and emotional control are so powerful, why do so few people actually practice them? The answer might reveal something even more important about human nature, and about the kind of influence that truly shapes the world. And that's exactly what we'll explore next.